G'day everyone, welcome to Breakout Wednesday. It is Wednesday the 25th of September 2019. It is 1 p.m. Perth time, 3 p.m. Sydney time, and probably about 1 a.m. in New York on Wednesday morning. So the markets have been sideways to a little bit down over the last week. And to me, it's a wait and see market because I have my long-term positions and investments in ETFs and index stuff and certain stocks that I've discussed over the last few months. I don't really feel the need to push trades and to force trades and to find stuff that isn't there. It's a matter of just sitting on my hands sometimes and waiting for perfect setups to come along. Having said that, there has been a few trades and I have a few positions open, and there's been a few short setups too. And so there's always stuff out there if you're willing to work hard enough. However, certainly the trades aren't stacking up, and there's not easy money out there right now if there's such a thing. So what's happening at the moment in the markets is that the banks are pretty strong. If you look at JP Morgan in the States, it's up near new all-time highs. If you look at Commonwealth Bank in Aussie, it's not a new all-time highs. However, this is this little retracement I talked about a few weeks ago. It's bounced off that region and it's just zoomed up, and it's up near highs of this last rally, last July. If you look at the NAB, National Australia Bank, is not at new all-time highs, but it's set a new all-time high for this trend. Okay, and so it certainly looks like it is going to chase those pre-GFC all-time highs. Okay, and so even the little regional banks, if you call them that, they look like they're finally coming out of their slumber. So the Bank of Queensland has had this huge sideways base. It's finally tipped its head above its 200-day moving average, and is potentially now about to break out and form a new high. All right. So the banks are looking strong. They're obviously not explosive stocks that you can double, triple your money in a couple of months, but a lot of people like trading them, and it's each for their own. The FANGs are weak. If you look at Netflix in the States, Netflix is making new lows. And it's gonna push this low here from just prior to Christmas last year, and there's a lot of people that are gonna try and buy this low. If it can get into this kind of support area I've drawn, I think it could bounce. And I'm certainly looking. I'm not gonna just blindly buy it when it comes down and touches this area, but I'm gonna be really looking for evidence of a bounce. And if I get a nice doji or pin bar, something that really looks like it could be a reversal signal, then I'll certainly try and trade this alongside. It's not a classical breakout trade, but I still trade them in a breakout manner. So I'll look for a doji to form and I'll trade a breakout of that bar. So it's still breakout trading. It's just a different kind of it. All right, so and look at the other FANGs a week. If you look at Alibaba, the big Chinese stock, it had a big down day last night. It had this false breakout and broke down. So trading at the moment, classic breakouts, it's hard. It's especially there's a lot of fake outs out there, and I think you need to be very, very selective. The software stocks that I talked about last week are still getting hammered. Shopify down big last night. A lot of the other ones which I've talked about, let's just have a look at Workday. It's forming a little base here, and it's probably going to break down out of that. So there's certainly some short setups around for those who are flexible and want to short. So I'm just going to run through the trades that I am still in, I've been talking about and in. EOS, I'm still in on the remaining of my parcel. Flight Centre, I mentioned last week that I trimmed half and I've got half running, still showing a loss. It's come back a little bit, but that's still playing out. Okay, UWL. Okay, so I talked about this last week. I think it broke out that day I talked about it. Yep, I think it was. And then it's going well. I'm still in it with the full parcel, and I'm gonna let this go a little bit. I've got a profit target, I forget, up here somewhere, the depth of this ascending triangle. So I'm going to see if it can hit that, and if so, I'll take most of it off, like 75% of the position I'll probably take off, and I'll leave the rest to run. Okay, so just moving on to the next one. Keys, the US stock I was chatting about. Now that was a complete false breakout. and I bailed on a low close behind the breakout day. So I think I took a loss. I took a loss on that. I think I sold off on the break below this kind of doji here. So quick loss on that one, but that's okay. MTH. Okay, luckily this thing came up and hit my profit target last night, so I've trimmed about 75% of that position. So that's a trade that I'm happy with. It was a big breakout, breakaway gap, base breakout. Okay, and so it's hit that target, and I've got a little bit of it left, and I'm gonna let the rest run, but most of it's off, and the profit's in the bank. And one of the only trades new ones I've taken last week is CUTR on the NASDAQ market. So we had a massive break up on earnings. It didn't close the gap, and then we had this tight little base here form, and then a breakout. Okay, so I'm in it, and I've got my full position on that. I'm looking for this to explode a bit higher, and I'll trim half. So I'll follow up that last week and see how that unfolds. So now just moving to stocks that I'm stalking still. And there's a few Aussie ones and a few US ones. I'll talk through them all, obviously. So BWX, I've talked about a few times. It's forming this flag here, and it's looking strong. So I'm stalking this one, and I'm waiting for a break up. Okay, if you look at unbalanced volume, it's strong. If we look at this big volume back here on the breakaway, it's strong. And it's all signs are pointing to a breakup, but we'll see what happens. It's a bit extended from its moving averages, so but it tends to be that's what happens with explosive momentum moves. So we'll wait and see. Now BYE, I've talked about it. I think Frank's talked about it. It's popping around in a wild range here. It had an attempt to break down, and it didn't. Had an attempt to break up, and it didn't, and it's back in its range. So it's interesting. It's I'd like to see it just tighten up for a little bit and stop this wild moving around. If it can just tighten up and the volume can just dry up, then it could be a really, really good setup. So I'm watching the volume on it closely to see some really, really low volume days, ideally on low range price movement as well. If we can get that and then a break up, it could be great. So I love it here, how we just had this explosive breakaway and then huge volume and just rush up. And so it's textbook it really is textbook for an explosive stock based on really this breakaway gap here in this first move. But now we need for the volume to dry up, and then we need a breakout. Another stock I'm looking at, which is a little bit of a different one, Fletcher Building, FBU. I've traded this so many times over the years. I don't know why. I just tend to like it. I have won many more than I've lost on this one, and I just like it. It moves. It obeys classical technical analysis and breakouts pretty well. I'm looking at this tight range form. Looking at this big volume down day here that hopefully it was the end, the mark of the end. Another big volume down day here. I'm looking at this really tight range. It's not as many days as I'd like. I'm hoping we can have a few more days there within that range, and it can really tighten up. If we can tighten for another little bit, then it could be a super good setup. Okay, so I'm watching FBU closely. That's not for a long-term trade. That's for a quick explosive trade that I'll just look to bank some profits if it can break out and go. HLS watching, so this came up in a weekly Davis box scan, and I'm watching for this to base. I want this to just come around here on low volume and then break up. So that's a bit of a way away. Now INR came up on a tri-point resistance on weekly data scan. So I like that setup. It's a nice base. Looks good on a weekly chart, and I'm just watching that base away. Now moving on, there's just a couple more on the Aussie market. Okay, IOD, yes. So IOD looks like it's broken today. So sorry about that. Hopefully some of you jumped on that. So just on this note, I had someone contacted me this week just asking, do I look at the live feed of these things all day long? I do not. I have many things in life I wish to do, and staring at a live feed is not one of them. And I do a bit of day trading, but it's confined between very strict hours. I trade the open of a few markets, and that's really all I do. I just trade the open of those things. And so I can confine my day trade into about an hour a day, and I have no desire to look at stocks for 10 hours, 15 hours a day, because I spend a lot of time doing scans on end of day data anyway. So there's only so many hours in the day. I have a family, I have many things other than trading. So IOD broke out today. I don't know if I've been filled. My market data is not running at the moment. I've just got end of day data here. So anyway, sidetracked there, but I have not written back to that person yet. I apologize. However, if you're listening, that will answer the question. Okay. But I also find that most successful traders do not look at their data all day long. You do dumb things when you're staring at it. Most of us do. You get scared by a tiny little move. You sell too early. I find most people that actually make money as trend traders are not staring at live feeds all day. Okay. It's just human nature. Anyway, moving on. NCM. I talked about this ages ago. This thing is still trending up. Okay, I mentioned back here that I'd left a little bit on the table. I still have some on. I'm riding this green line here, which is the 100-day moving average. Gold's out of favor. No one's really talking about gold stocks anymore. However, this thing's still chopping away, and it's all its moving average are pointing up. Who knows? Maybe this thing's going to double again. That's why I leave a bit on the table, and it's hard to have the discipline to just let these things run because they just swing around so much. But I take so much off the table when these things are exploding up that I don't. I've already banked profit. That the rest of it is just I'm very relaxed about it, but it's amazing when trends keep going how just leaving 25% or 50% or whatever percent of a trade left can just turn into a really good profit. So that one's still going. Another interesting one that I talked about just months ago is WGX. So it's the same boat. I mean, this thing, if you just look at every single retracement, it hits this 50-day moving average, which is this blue line, and then bounces and bounces. And so this is forming a nice tight little range here. It's the trend is up, and it's very strong. So not saying it's a good entry, by the way, on a breakout there. It's gone up a lot, but I've been trading this thing for a while. It had a bunch of Davis boxes. I think it formed like 6 or 7 or 8 Davis boxes in a row, this stock. So, okay, now a few more that I'm looking at. PPS forming a super tight range. I forget how I found that. I think it was on a double top scan. I find these all via scans, guys. I spend so much time just doing random scans in the Pro Trader, of the scan system. It's forming a tight range. It's got all this overhead resistance here, so it's not the best setup out there. But they're all inside bars. It's a little ascending triangle, and it's a tight range and the volume's starting to dry up. So I'm watching that one. Okay, in the US. It's healthcare. It's all really healthcare stocks. The software stocks are just getting hammered. ZBH is tightening in a base after this huge breakaway gap up. I'm watching it closely. Shack, which is like a luxury McDonald's equivalent. It's only got like 200 shops, I think, and there's a chance. It's got a huge growth potential. Anyway, I'm watching it base there, and hopefully it can tighten up and break out. So. On the short side, last night this trade is just getting started, but I'm short MasterCard on a break of this tight range. It's very risky because it was, the 100-day is here and its lows here, and anyway, it's a risky trade. But I just thought I'd show everyone what can happen on the other side. And I am short Disney. I've talked a lot about being long Disney. However, I reversed my view and opinion on a break of this wedge here and a break of all these moving average. And I'm short that. I've been short for it for 4 days now. So it's similar to MasterCard. MasterCard trade just started and I've just got short, and I'll see how that plays out. Disney, I've been short for a little bit, and I'm hoping for a bit of a move down tonight, in which case I'll trim most of it away and then keep the rest. I presume it's going to fall down to around its 200 days, so I'll trim half of it on a bit of a push down to around the 120, 129, 130, and then the rest probably at this 200 day, if it ever gets to that. The other trade is Barber. I think I mentioned this at the start. However, false breakout, breakdown. I didn't miss this. I missed this. However, if for those who like to short, if you're educated yourself on what a breakout looks like, then trading the fake outs is just probably the best signal for shorting. You get this fake out, you look to get short, you try and it's really just taking smart bets, figuring out where, once you get your fake out, where it makes sense to get short, and where your risk level is and where your stop loss is and all that sort of stuff. So I watched that trade. I got busy with some other trades and I missed it, but that's just a good example of a fake out. So anyway, that's it for now. I think there's a lot of setups, especially on the Aussie market, that are setting up that I ran through. There's a bunch of others out there, but a lot of them are really, really low, illiquid names. I could run through like another 10, 20 stocks that are setting up in nice tight ranges, but some of them are only doing 5, 6, 7K a day, and it's just a waste of time because I can't get out of those stocks in a hurry if I need to. So that's it for this week. Hope everyone gets something out of this. I am working on a new software package to bring this. I haven't had time. I apologize if things skip, if the screen freezes. I don't work for ProTrader, guys. This is just me doing this, finding some time to do this. And hopefully I'm helping a couple people out there. If so, I'll keep doing it, and I will upgrade my software ASAP. I promise. All right, catch up. Bye.